This video is part 2 of the 4 parts for Aerys II, the Mad King. If you haven't watched part 1, I would do that first. A quick recap from part 1. At this point, we have Aerys II, who started out happy and full of empty ambition, who was still a bit erratic and off, to a man that has slid further and further into mistrust and madness as his wife continuously has miscarriages and stillbirths, and his hand rules the realm better than him. At the tournament celebrating the birth of Aerys II's second child, Viserys, it starts to become clear to some that Aerys II has slid a bit too far into madness. The defiance of Duskendale would be the last push into the void of madness Aerys II would never escape from. So Duskendale is refusing to pay taxes, and pissed that they didn't get their charter so they could compete and trade with King's Landing and the other big harbor towns. The Lord of Duskendale, Lord Dennis Darklyn, invites Aerys II to come hear his petition. Tywin, and very strongly, tells Aerys II, do not go, this is a trap. So of course, Aerys II decides he's going to head to Duskendale to not only defy Tywin, but show the realm that he, Aerys II, rules, not Tywin Lannister. But just like with everything else Tywin was doing for the realm, he was right and it was a trap. A trap Aerys II walked right into with his small escort led by Sir Gawain Gaunt of the King's Guard. Some men in his escort were killed trying to defend Aerys II and keeping him from getting captured, including Sir Gawain. But in the end, Aerys II does end up being kidnapped by Lord Darklyn's men. The response to Aerys II's kidnapping is almost immediate. Shock, outrage, and then demanding for an assault on Duskendale to free the king and punish the rebels. But an assault on Duskendale would prove difficult. It had strong walls, a fort called Dunfort, and overlooked a harbor. Tywin's first act was to send out both ravens and riders, commanding the Lord Darklyn to give up the king, while Tywin also gathered his own forces. Lord Darklyn refused to release the king and sent word that if any attempt was made to break his walls, the king would be killed. The small council felt that no son of Westeros would ever do such a thing, but Tywin, seeing no other choice, took a sizable host of men to Duskendale, surrounding it by both land and sea. With his supplies cut off and surrounded, Lord Darklyn's resolve begins to fade and he attempts to parley with Tywin. And if you know Tywin and the Reigns of Castamere, you know Tywin doesn't like to negotiate. Tywin ignores every single attempt for negotiation and instead demands Duskendale's complete and unconditional surrender of not only the town and castle, but also the king. The defiance of Duskendale ends up lasting about 6 months, and as time went on and food and stores begin to run out, Lord Darklyn becomes even more convinced that Tywin is going to fold any day now and offer better terms. He just didn't know Tywin too well. Each moment that passed only made Tywin more resolute, and Tywin finally sent one more issue to surrender. Tywin promised that if Lord Darklyn didn't surrender, he would take the town by force and kill every single man, woman, and child. Some even claim Tywin sent a bard to issue the command and then sing the Reigns of Castamere to Lord Darklyn and his wife, and I wouldn't put that past Tywin to do so. The small council, who are now outside Duskendale with the hand, argued against Tywin storming the town, claiming that Lord Darklyn would kill King Aerys II if he did. Tywin, allegedly, responded, "He may or he may not, but if he does, we have a better king right here." He then raised a hand to indicate Prince Rhaegar. And this is where the best part of the story comes in. Sir Barristan Selmy, or Barristan the Bold, or Barry the Bold. Sir Barristan Selmy won fame when he single-handedly slew Maelys Blackfyre in the 5th and final Blackfyre Rebellion, ending the fight right there. Now, outside of Duskendale with Tywin, he offered to enter the town in secret, find his way to the Dunfort, and get the king to safety. Tywin thinks Barristan is absolutely crazy, but the respect he has for Barristan is so high that Tywin gives him a day to attempt his plan before he attacks Duskendale. Sir Barristan scales the walls of Duskendale with his bare hands and disguised as a hooded beggar. He then makes his way to Dunfort. There, he scales the walls of the Dunfort, kills a guard on the wall walk before the guard can even raise an alarm, and then by stealth finds his way to the dungeon where the king is being held. But before he could get the king out of Dunfort, the alarms are raised and men come rushing to stop Sir Barristan. Rather than surrender himself or the king, Barristan chooses to stand and fight to the death. First, Barristan kills Lord Darklyn's brother and Master-at-Arms Sir Simon Hollard and a pair of guards. Then, he hurries with the king to the stables, fighting anyone who gets in his way, and he rides out of Dunfort with Aerys II before the castle gates can be closed. Barristan races through the streets of Duskendale with the king as horns and trumpets are sounding the alarm. Lastly, Barristan and Aerys II race up the walls as Tywin's archers attempt to clear it of defenders. With the king safe, Lord Darklyn was forced to surrender. Aerys II demanded the death of Darklyn, his immediate family, along with every uncle, aunt, and even distant family of Duskendale. Even the Hollards were wiped out, save Sir Simon's young nephew, Dauntus Hollard, spared only when Barristan begged for the boy's life in payment for what Barristan had done for the king. Lord Darklyn's foreign wife had a much worse death, since many accused her of being the real reason Lord Darklyn had rebelled. Her tongue was ripped out and her womanly parts torn out, and then she was burned alive. Aerys II had been on a downward spiral of crazy before the defiance of Duskendale, but after the defiance, his sanity was shattered. While in captivity at Duskendale, Aerys II had been shoved, roughly, stripped, and beat. Upon being released, Aerys II refused to allow anyone to touch him, even his servants. He refused to be washed or his hair cut, and as time passed, his hair became a long, dirty, tangled mess, and his fingernails long, thick, yellow talons. Aerys II also forbade any blade in his presence except for by the knights of his king's guard. He even refused to leave the Red Keep for any cause and stayed in his castle for the next 4 years, growing more suspicious and cruel to those around him. In his growing paranoia, especially of Tywin, Aerys II appointed his childhood friend and cousin, Stefan Baratheon, to the Small Council. In 278 AC, Aerys II sent Lord Stefan to Old Volantis to seek out a suitable bride for Rhaegar. This was a bit of a blow to Tywin. Why didn't Aerys II trust his own hand on this vital mission? People began to whisper that once Lord Stefan successfully found a new bride for Rhaegar and returned, Aerys II would appoint him as a new hand and would arrest and try Tywin for high treason. And there were some people that would actually be really happy if that happened. Fortunately for Tywin, and unfortunately for Aerys II, on the way back from Volantis, Stefan's ship sank in Shipbreaker Bay, and Stefan and his wife drowned as Stefan's 2 eldest sons watched from Storm's End's castle wall. Aerys II, in a rage, told Maester Pycelle that Tywin had somehow arranged for Lord Stefan's death and the sinking of his ship. Aerys II became convinced Tywin would kill him too if he got the chance, and would only now meet with Tywin in the presence of all 7 King's Guard. And then, if you can believe it, he got crazier, and decided Prince Rhaegar and Queen Raela, along with the lords and small folk, were plotting against him. To combat these so-called plots, Aerys II ends up bringing a eunuch from across the narrow sea from Pentos named Varys to serve as his spy master. Varys soon became known as the Spider and developed a vast web of informers using the crown's gold. For the remainder of Aerys II's reign, Varys would be at his side, whispering in his ear. Aerys II also became obsessed with dragonfire after Duskendale, an obsession we've seen in other Targaryens before him. Just like Aegon V declared no lords could resist him if he had dragons, Aerys II claimed no one would dare defy him, especially Lord Darklyn if he had had dragons. Aerys tried to hatch a clutch of dragon eggs found in Dragonstone, some so old that they were stone, but none of them would hatch. Realizing he couldn't get them to hatch, he moved on to a new substitute for dragons, wildfire. The Guild of Alchemists knew how to create this jade-green substance, and soon pyromancers became a regular appearance at court. As 280 AC rolled on, people all over the realm began to realize how crazy Aerys II was, and started to call him the Mad King. This madness showed clearly when Aerys II decided he would now burn traitors, murderers, and plotters instead of hanging or beheading them. And Aerys II really loved these fiery executions, so much that the Grand Master of the Guild of Alchemists, Wisdom Rossart, was given the title of Lord and a seat on the Small Council. Meanwhile, while Aerys II is sliding further and further downhill, Rhaegar is becoming more estranged from his father. In 279 AC, Rhaegar was betrothed to Princess Elia Martell, a very delicate woman and the younger sister of Doran Martell, Prince of Dorne. Rhaegar and Elia were married in a huge, extravagant ceremony at the Great Sept of Baelor in King's Landing, but Aerys II didn't attend, fearing an attempt on his life would be made if he left the Red Keep. Aerys II also forbade Rhaegar's little brother, Viserys, from attending the wedding. Rhaegar then took his new wife Elia to reside in Dragonstone instead of the Red Keep, and this caused a ton of rumors to start spreading. Was Rhaegar planning to depose of Aerys II and take his throne? Or did he move to Dragonstone because he knew his father was going to disinherit him and name Viserys as the heir? And so lots of wagging of tongues started. In 280 AC, Rhaegar and Aelia had their first child, Rhaenys. Prince Rhaegar returned to the Red Keep to present his daughter to Aerys and Raela, but the king refused to touch the child, complaining she smelled Dornish. Rhaegar's mother, Raela, however, embraced the child. And while all this is happening, poor Tywin, he is just chilling, running the realm, trying to ignore a complete psycho is on the throne. Until 281 AC, Sir Harlan Grandison, a Kingsguard, passes away at an old age in his sleep, and Aerys II offers a white cloak to Tywin's eldest son and heir, Jaime. Jaime Lannister is 15, a knight, and already known to be pretty good with a sword. At the time Aerys II offered Jaime the white cloak, Tywin had all his hopes on Jaime for continuing the house pride and line, and was in the middle of arranging a marriage for Jaime. All at once, Aerys II denied Jaime as Tywin's heir, forcing his hated, malformed dwarf son Tyrion to be the new heir, and making Tywin look foolish in his marriage arrangements. And Tywin, in probably the greatest show of self-control, went down onto one knee, thanked Aerys II for the great honor shown to his house, and pleading illness, Tywin asked to retire his hand, which Aerys II gladly accepted, and Tywin headed back to Casterly Rock with his daughter Cersei. In Tywin's place, Lord Owen Merryweather was placed as the new hand, a man that laughed at every witty thing the king said. Shortly after Tywin's resigning, Lord Walter Went announced plans for a great tourney to be held at Harrenhal to celebrate his daughter's name day. Aerys II chooses this event for Sir Jaime Lannister to be presented as a new knight of the King's Guard. And at this event, it would set in motion the end of the Mad King's reign, and end the long rule of House Targaryen in the Seven Kingdoms. Come back next Sunday when we talk about Aerys II, Part 3, The False Spring, where Rhaegar starts a lot of problems and Aerys II just fans the flames. Otherwise, make sure you like and subscribe and come back Wednesday for a random Game of Thrones video.